Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, one of the most iconic road comedies of all time, a genuine Thanksgiving classic. But beyond its humor, the film captures a unique moment in American travel, a time when people of different classes were more likely to sit side by side. But today, a film like that, could that even be made? Would Neal and Dell even meet, or are today's travelers just too divided by class? First, let's revisit what the film's about. Basic premise is simple. Steve Martin plays Neal Page, an uptight marketing executive desperate to return home for Thanksgiving with his family in Chicago. But a series of mishaps, a flight delay, a snowstorm, and bad luck at every turn forces him to rely on Dale Griffith, an obnoxious but well-meaning shower ring salesman, to get home. So look at this. These two characters are very different. So picture Neal. He's polished, professional, and completely out of his comfort zone. Then there's Dell. Sloppy, unrefined, and constantly on the road. As they travel, Dell's quirks drive Neal to the edge, and much of the comedy comes from this clash between their personalities and vastly different social classes. Dell is a working-class, traveling salesman. He wears a shabby coat, hauls around an overstuffed trunk, he chain smokes, devours junk food, and stays in cheap motels. All he carries on himself is $263, a cheap digital wristwatch, and a loyalty discount card for a fictional men's store. These are all symbols of his humble lifestyle on the road. All right, now look at Neal. He's an upper middle class and refined. He's got an 18-karat gold watch, over $700 in his wallet, and typically flies first class for work. He lives in a beautiful home, has 3 kids, and pays for all the expenses when he and Dell travel together. Neal's life of comfort and entitlement kind of clashes with Dell's resourcefulness, which he forged from years of living out of a trunk on the road. At the bus station, we see Dell run out of money, so he talks to 3 teenage girls into buying shower curtain rings, claiming they'll make them look older.
You know something? It makes you look a little older, too. I mean, not just a little bit. You could pass for 18 or 19.
Neal, meanwhile, constantly loses his cool when things go wrong. Picture him trudging 5 miles on road to a rental car agency, frustration building with each step. At the counter, he lashes out at the receptionist.
Start by wiping that fucking dumbass smile off your rosy fucking cheeks. Then you can give me a fucking automobile, a fucking Datsun, a fucking Toyota, a fucking Mustang, a fucking Buick, 4 fucking wheels and a seat.
And then he gets punched in the face by a cab driver hailer.
If I wanted a joke, I'd follow you into the John and watch you take a leak. Now, are you gonna help me, or are you gonna stand there like a slab of meat with mittens?
By the 1980s, deregulation had democratized travel, opening the skies to millions. The Airline Deregulation Act of 1978 allowed airlines to compete by lowering prices, making air travel accessible to a wider range of Americans. For the first time, travelers from different classes were sharing seats and experiences. A guy like Dell can now afford to fly, leading to more encounters between people like him and Neal. Throughout the film, the differences between Neal and Dell are glaring. When they're robbed, Neal tries to pay with his Visa card, while Dell offers his discount card for Chalmers Big and Tall Men's Shop, which is fictional. Later, after a fire destroys their cash, Neal uses his luxury watch to pay for a motel room. Dell tries the same with his digital watch, but it's instantly rejected. In the end, Neal learns Dell has no home and invites him to Thanksgiving. The holiday, centered on gratitude and togetherness, bridges their divide. This theme of unity across class differences was fitting for the 1980s, but would it work today? Their unlikely partnership only happened because of a ticketing mix-up. Neal initially buys a first-class ticket on TWA, but he's bumped to coach due to a seating error. He looks around, visibly horrified as he's surrounded by coach passengers. This chance encounter, brought on by a mishap, sparks a journey. Today, travel class divides are sharper. The rise of low-cost airlines like Spirit, Frontier, and Allegiant has created an almost caste-like system in air travel. A guy like Dell would end up taking a cheap ticket on Spirit, while Neal would end up flying United. And even if Neal and Dell were on the same flight, the divide would be more visible. Neal would likely be in business class, enjoying priority boarding, a quieter cabin, and a complimentary meal, while Dell might be squeezed into basic economy, paying extra fees for everything from seat selection to carry-ons. At the airport, Neal would relax in an exclusive lounge with free drinks and snacks, while Dell navigates the crowded terminal, seeking affordable options. Today's airports heavily cater to premium passengers with luxury services, exclusive check-in counters, and private security lanes that widen the gap between travelers. In today's layered travel hierarchy, Neal and Dale's chance encounter would be almost impossible. Planes, trains, and automobiles wasn't just about getting home, it was about breaking down barriers. But with today's travel landscape, where economic barriers are higher than ever, you have to wonder, could a modern Neal and Dale ever make it to Thanksgiving together?